Yeah, I saw that. I haven't,
They were both done.
no, I just saw what happened.
Yes, both of those were
And they rebuilt out here.
yeah.
Okay, at 6:30. So we will call to order a regular meeting of the Tracy City Council at 6:30 PM on Monday, February 11th, 2019.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jeff, you have to do the prayer tonight.
Do I? It'll be short.
Okay, doesn't look like anybody's here for the invocation, so we'll move on. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes?
I'll make the motion approved.
Under discussion, page 2, second paragraph, they completed the truth and taxation training. That should be Board of Equalization training.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just, we have enough confusion on that, because the truth and taxation is December, and the board is in April, so.
thank you.
Do you want it changed in the minutes then?
Yeah, we'll change it.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of accepting the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Onto the agenda. Can I get a motion for approval of that?
There are no additions.
I move to approve the agenda as written.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on the agenda? All in favor of the agenda as written?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any conflicts of interest this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on. Public comment, as opposed to the public hearing. Does anybody have anything to say or want to speak about anything that's not on the agenda tonight? Okay, rousing response on that one. And the public hearing is for 6:45, so we're going to move on to report. None. Petitions, requests, and communications. Set local Board of Appeal date, April 22nd, 2019 at 7 p.m.
It's a meeting night again.
Yeah.
Yep, and they've got a schedule for that this time.
They did the same thing last year. We need to see if we can't correct that again. And,
So you want it on a different night?
yeah, you'll never get everything done. You don't know who's gonna show up. You'll never get it. You never get it done.
Last year it was on a different night and you wanted it on the meeting.
No, there was a meeting night. They had it set up for a meeting night. That's why we went for a different night. They said they wouldn't move it. They said they'd done it in the past, so.
So you want us to check with them and see if they'll,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't-
I will.
it has to be set by what date? February 13th.
Yeah, this is what they come out with. They do their schedule. And for us to change it is gonna be,
we-
The only way we could change it is you'd have to request a change today being the 11th. You'd have to have a meeting tomorrow to accept it and then represent it to them. Because they have to have it by the 13th,
Of February,
correct?
yeah.
And we'd have to get a date from them.
So if we accept it this time with the stipulation that next year it is not on a meeting date?
I can certainly call them in the morning to see if, do you want to approve the date you want contingent on them accepting it?
I can't speak for anybody else, but any date but the 8th and the 22nd of April works for me. I mean, it's, meeting nights is not a good night to have that.
Can't hurt to ask.
Yeah,
We've done them on different nights of the week, too.
Do you have a date that you want to pick? Would you like us to see if they can do it on Tuesday, the 23rd?
It's
You want to
fine.
Yeah.
pass for that, and then if they accept that, we'll get it changed. If they don't, we'll have to call
Well, yeah,
a meeting.
or if they don't, they do it on the 22nd.
You want to leave it as such? 23rd if they approve, 22nd if
Do
we
we
can.
have to say a specific date, or
Yeah.
can we just?
It goes
do-
out on the board, it goes on.
No, I mean to them, where if they say, well, we could do it on this date.
They're working around 9 cities, so they usually pick the dates, and they don't like us to change it if we don't have to, but we can ask.
Well, that's what I'm saying, would it be better for us to ask for whatever's more convenient for them to reschedule it to versus us saying, we want it on the 23rd?
I was saying, we could,
We just don't want it on a council meeting day. if
right,
possible.
could make a motion to approve it for any date other than the 8th or the 22nd, and when they let them pick the date, we've
And
got
if
it.
they can't do any other date, then we're stuck with the 22nd, but if they can pick any other date.
However
I
you
think
want to
we'd
word it,
be-
if you just want to word it that we'll hold it on, I don't know if it's got a,
I personally, I would pick the 23rd, and then I can't see, they have it on multiple other
Yeah.
Tuesday nights on here.
Yep.
So I don't see why that would be a problem. In fact, it's only on, there's one Wednesday, otherwise they're all Mondays and Tuesdays. So I would word it for, I would make a motion, or I would
advice.
advise you to make a motion for the 23rd at 7 PM. And if you want to give us the authority to change it as needed, you could. Otherwise, we could meet again tomorrow if they don't accept that.
I would just make a motion that you guys just negotiate a date other than the 8th or the 22nd.
I second
With,
that.
with the fallback of being the 22nd, it's, you guys just figure it
And then
out.
we can put it on carousel and
Yep.
we have a date.
Yep.
And by "we," you mean Diane will call tomorrow and figure it
Yes.
out.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any other further discussion? All in favor of Diane negotiating a time for this, for the Board of Appeal date? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Donation request from St. Mary's School.
So as you see in your packet there, they're requesting the pool pass punch cards. I think they've gotten them in the past. What was the amount that they were requesting? It was
Anything that
Any-
they're willing
yeah.
to donate.
with pool goodies.
Didn't we do for after prom, did we do
Punch
Yeah.
cards.
2 of them?
Two of them, yeah.
Punch cards, I'll make a motion, we do the same thing with the 2 punch cards.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Boards and commission size, makeup, and appointments.
So, some people who have asked to join a few, and some council members have talked to me about some things. Before we get into our March meeting, where you'll be appointing multiple positions, hopefully, as long as we have people, it talked about some requirements and such of boards, size-wise, position, attendance, things like that. There were some questions that were asked by the charter as well, so I'd like to report back to them.
Okay. What questions did they have?
Attendance was a big one. We've got some people that don't attend them at all, and maybe some guidelines on, I don't know, Rosemary, if you want to voice on that at all, you kind of,
Some of our boards people sit on, I'm Rosemary from Tracy. some people sit on these boards and don't show up multiple times, and sometimes we just call to even make a quorum. We need to have some kind of a guideline. Do we want to set it at 3 meetings missed, unexcused, or is there some type of a guideline we want to put in there?
That 3 unexcused absence has been pretty much a rule used by the fire department.
Right.
The library board uses a similar rule.
The charter also
Yeah, I don't
uses
know
the
why it
same.
couldn't just be a standard for all boards and commissions.
And
Okay,
I think
Other
that's part of what we're
organizations.
looking for.
I've been in, it's been the same thing, 3 and
and that's
done.
unexcused. If they call you at the last minute, because we've had a couple of meetings where people, all kinds of things have happened, but it has to be unexcused, so we need to have that verbiage in there.
I would think 3 would be
Yeah, that's,
sufficient.
And so then, if they're unexcused, if they miss 3, then their position automatically comes open? Is that how we want to do that?
Or would you want it referred back to the council? I guess
To post for appointment again, type thing, yeah.
that was part of, I think, what, if I remember right, Mr. Green was talking about.
Right.
You know, what is the procedure for removing someone that doesn't make the attendance? Because there are people that haven't been there in years.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want it public brought to you? Do you want it,
Or are they automatically off? Is that stated that 3 unexcused absences, you weren't there, then it is stated at the next council meeting, such and such board or commissions, this board member has not been there 3+ times unexcused. Do you want to go to another appointment type thing?
Organizations I've been with in the past have been automatic.
Okay.
Where 3,
3 and you're out.
I mean, 3 in a row, 3 strikes, and it's automatic, and that
Well,
position would come open.
I'll use the fire department again as an example. It's 3 in a year, not 3 in a row. You miss 3 in a year, you put your vested interest in jeopardy if you can't. And a lot of these boards don't meet but once a quarter or not every month. I mean, if you can't make,
Yeah, I agree with that, too.
you know, if you can't make
That's a good point.
25% of them, then you've got no business being there.
Mm-hmm.
So any 3 meetings in the calendar year,
do you want it something where a president of the board would then send something to my office and I'd send a letter to them?
that'd be notified somehow, yeah.
And give them a period of time if they'd wish to plead their case to the council.
Right.
Otherwise, if they don't respond, then we accept that as their letter or as their resignation. We should try and have something.
Should we have that verbiage in the charter under boards and commissions? Is my question.
I don't think it belongs in the charter.
I was just gonna say, I think it
The
could just
bylaws.
be in the bylaws of
Yeah.
the committees that.
Of all the committees, but I
This is
mean,
the
well, the reason why I'm saying that is because all the boards are covered in the charter. So that would be one standard thing to say in the charter.
No, not all of them are.
Not every, that's
Just the
right.
charter.
Oh, no, there's,
But not charter.
okay.
Well, the point is if somebody doesn't come 3 times and then we just send them a letter, tell them that they're done, you don't want to, you want the fair process. So
Right.
I would say give them an opportunity to come to the council. If they don't come to the council,
Then we make
then
an
that's
appointment.
their,
I would agree with that.
yeah.
That
Okay.
makes sense.
Can I get a motion as such?
I make a motion that a standing rule for the boards and commissions is if you miss 3 meetings in a calendar year, you'd be removed from that board or commission. And you'd be notified by the administrator's office that you have a right to appeal in front of the council.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Motion carries.
6:45.
It is. So, at this time, we will open the public hearing
Right.
on the, let's see, the small city grant, second round.
Right, okay. I'm Jeff Gladys, the Housing Director at United Community Action out of Marshall, and as everyone's aware, we're applying for small cities development money to do owner-occupied rehabilitation projects in Tracy for low to moderate income households. And so there's certain things I gotta let everybody know tonight, and then if there's any questions, we can take those. So everything I'm covering is something that we have to cover here. We're applying for 21 houses in a targeted area, and we're to average $24,000 a home of small cities money. Now, with this money, there's matching requirements required for a certain portion of this. So that $24,000 is just the grant dollars. Another thing I want to bring up about that $24,000 is if we don't hit that average of $24,000, all we'll do is that money will go to an additional household. So we'll do, our target is to hit 21 and no less than 21 houses. Targeted area, you guys all have the map. If people want to see a map, I have one right there also. This area was chosen by surveys. We did 2 rounds of surveys throughout the entire area of Tracy, and then we plotted the responses on this map for the people that indicated that they hit the income guidelines and that they were interested in the program, got put on a waiting list. With the first application, I submitted the targeted area that was bigger than this. However, the funding source said you want to scale that down, so that's how this final one, I encompassed as many houses as I could into these 2 target areas. Now you'll see there's a target area A and a target area B. Target area A would be the initial targeted area that would be used for the first year of the grant. And then if the grant was received August 1st, after the grants, the following August 1st after the grants received, then it would open up to target area B, so then we could work in both target areas. But so that's just how that was selected. Like I think this is like our 5th or 6th one that we've done in Tracy, and we've been in the majority of the areas that are not here except out in the Greentown area. And they're, go ahead.
So let's say we're after 21 houses.
Yep.
If we get them all in target A, would we go to B at all?
No, not if we have, but it's going to have to be in that first year.
Right.
Jeff and I were talking prior, and I can't remember a grant that we filled completely in the first year. We might see something like that, like we're starting a new grant in Marshall where it's a commercial area. We'll see that commercial district fill up very quickly. But in a residential area like this, I anticipate that there will be applicants that come from target area B too, also. The income guidelines for this grant are 80% area median income or less. We did, with this grant, with the urging of the funder, we split it into 2 different tiers. And in this one, if we have households that are 50% of the area median income or less, they actually wouldn't have to come up with the matching funds unless they go over the program max, which is $24,999. So there could be 100% grant for those extremely low incomes. If you are from over 50% area median income to 80% area median income, it's a 80%, 20% split, and the grant forgives over 10 years. Okay, so 10% every year that you're in the household. And it's a full year. We don't give credit for days, we don't get credit for months, you get credit per year. So a year anniversary from the date that the repayment agreement is signed, 10% forgives. So there's what the target area we're applying. Of the monies, we anticipate that we'd have $504,000 of grant money. Of that, then what the Department of Employment and Economic Development then would supply $75,600 for us to run all the things that need to be done with the grant. That's 15%, pretty standard across the way. We would expect that we'd have leverage funds of about $146,000 with this, so it'd be a total of $725,600 that we're actually anticipating that would be used throughout this whole grant process over the 2.5-year time frame. I do have to give you an idea of the time frame too, and keep in mind that the timeline we're putting here is dependent on HUD, and it's also dependent on Department of Employment and Economic Development. And so this is a normal timeline that we would normally see. If these funds are awarded, we'd probably find out in June if Tracy got them or not. Ideally, we would have the environmental clearance done by August, which it takes 2 months to get an environmental clearance done. And then we'd want to schedule a town meeting in September, and then we'd start taking applications and doing inspections right away then. And so we could be, if things went well, the bidding process could start as early as October. And I say that just because this last round, we're just getting our town meetings scheduled for this month. So they're like 6 months behind. So, but that was a HUD thing. HUD changed some stuff on the environmental, so it's behind. Projected finish date, I'm projecting, would be December of 2021. So it'd be 2.5-year process from the time that we get the grant. The other thing I have to go over is United Community Action was a merged agency of Western Community Action, Heartland Community Action. I've been working since the very beginning when Western started doing these grants back in 1990, I believe, was the first year that we started working on these. So my agency has a history of almost 30 years in these grants. We've served as a field administrator and a general administrator. We've done grants on commercial buildings, rental buildings. We've done owner-occupied. We've done disaster grants. So we've got a lot of experience in there. We've averaged anywhere between 1 to 3 every year that we apply for these. We're, like right now, I think that we have 5 or 6 of these grants open in our service area right now. So we have a lot of experience with that. We've got a good reputation with Department of Employment and Economic Development. The other thing, just to let everyone know that because these are federal funds, we have to, every project that we do, we have to send pictures to the State Historic Preservation Office, and then they give us their blessing on we send a list of repairs that we want to do per house with the pictures and they'll tell us whether they're interested in the house or not. 95% of the houses, at least, they're usually not interested in. I don't anticipate that we're going to have any historic houses in that grant application, but if we do, they can actually tell us what we can and can't do to that building, even if it's not on the register. But it doesn't happen very often in residential. Very, very seldom, unless we're in a historic district. And let's see. So if we do have that happen, then what we do is we send them up a much more detailed list of what we're going to do, and then we just work it out with the State Historic Preservation Office and come to an agreement on how we're going to do things, and then that project proceeds as any of the others would. That is everything that I need to cover tonight, but we'll open it up if anybody has any questions on anything, and that includes anybody in the audience. So, or Seth also. Seth, you don't have any questions? No, I'm just. This is our second meeting, so we had one of these already informational, but I do, if anybody has anything. If I can't answer it, I usually can, but if I can, I do get the answers. Or anybody on the council too.
Mine would just be, what are our next steps? Do we have to do anything, or are you just still running with it all?
We're running with it. The application is due on the 28th. Actually, after tonight, I've already talked to Diane on getting some unsigned minutes, unofficial minutes up to us, because we'll send that in with the application. And then after your next council meeting, we'll get a copy of the signed minutes sent in. But we'll have everything. I'm hoping to be sending it in yet this week. So the grant's done. It's ready to send in. We just had to have the public hearing. And then once we hear from it, then I'll work with Jeff if we're successful, and I think we have a good application here, I think our odds are very good. If we get it, we'll work with Jeff and the city and Chris on getting the environmental done. They won't have to do much there yet, but then when it gets time to getting close to having the town meeting, then we'll schedule a town meeting. One of the things with this application is anybody that filled out the survey that's in the targeted area, they do have 60 days to apply for the monies before someone that didn't fill out a survey. And we surveyed twice. The reason we do that is because the survey is so important to this application. That's one of the main things they look at. So our incentive for people to fill out the survey is that they'll have 60 days to apply over someone that didn't do the survey. But after 60 days, then they can still fill it out. We just can't proceed with that project until after the 60 days.
Will there be, excuse me, will
Yep.
there be letters sent to the people that completed the survey?
Yep, what we do when we get one now is we'd work with the city to do something with Seth in the paper, and then we would also try to attempt to call everybody and send a letter. Now, when we did this, because we're doing one in Marshall right now, when we call, we gotta leave a lot of messages. And, but yes, so we're trying twice to notify, and then it would be, Seth, I'm sure, would do something in the paper too prior to the meeting. So,
Do you have a website or something like that people can go to review this information?
yes,
for
we do
the-
have a website. If you search United Community Action Partnership, it'll pull up us right off the bat. And I don't have it right in my head right now, but you can ask who, since he works there too. But I don't have it handy on me right now.
And that has the income limits on it as well?
The income limits will be 80% area median income. To give you an idea, family of 4 in Lyon County, presently 60,000 or less. Single, 42,000. Now, when we look at that 50% area income, family of 4, 37.5. So,
Does that increase with the size of the family?
Yes.
If the family has 6, then, okay.
6, it goes up, on the 80% area median income, it goes up about $6,000 a person,
Yeah, for edited.
right around there. The higher you get, the little less it goes up. On the 50% area median income, it looks like it goes up about $3,400 per, right in that area. And those income guidelines would have been put on that survey too, but there'll be new guidelines coming out too, so we're going off 2018 numbers right now. And once they release the new numbers, they'll go up a little bit, I believe. Usually they go up. There's been one year they went down, but, so.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Okay.
If not, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Do you have a resolution for that?
You guys did the resolution last meeting, correct?
I thought we did, yeah.
-10?
We did it last meeting, I thought.
I'm just saying on the agenda.
It was something different, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is something different.
Okay.
2910.
Okay. Purchase of old food and fuel building to relocate Tracy Liquor Store. That's at 7. We got a couple minutes yet on that.
It'd take me 1 second to get that.
There's no one to set up.
Yeah, that's true.
Was it 7 yet?
No, we got a few more seconds
It's
yet.
6:59 and counting.
Yeah, I'll start this because the public comment stuff is supposed to be at 7, so. Okay, so at the last meeting, we discussed the purchase of the former Food and Fuel building as a location. You might remember that. That was where we talked about the property was available for sale for $33,000. We talked about using money from account 601-491-223, 601-491-222. Both of those were liquor store maintenance accounts. One was other and one was building maintenance. And then the general reserve account if needed to complete the renovations and move into it with a timeline of attempting to move in by boxcar days. So this has changed a little bit, the numbers. You asked me to get a little bit more strict on the numbers, get you some hard costs and round up versus down, so we did. Talked to Shane before he left. We were able to pin down some construction prices and such. It was $108,000 on the last one. We're up to $115,900, and this is, in my opinion and Shane's opinion, on the high side. But that's what you would have wanted. So here's a breakdown that you requested for the construction costs of moving it to the liquor store. Building materials, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, concrete floor, vapor barrier, drywall insulation, drywall finishing, windows, doors, paint, vinyl wall base, casing, ceiling grid system, furniture shelving, disposal, and demo. This is, again, on the high end, and this is turning that facility into a new location, into a new building. It will look, or I shouldn't say new building, a completely refurbished building. This isn't just painting a pig. This would be some nice looking stuff. So, what are the reasons to move the location? The costs associated with repairing the current location up to codes nears the building value. We had $60,000 that we budgeted for repairs in that building this year. $5,000 was ongoing building maintenance, and $60,000 was the additional that we put in for the west wall repair. It's crumbling. We need to look at adding sheet steel on the side, fixing the crumbling brick on the side first, and then putting sheet steel over the side. That was the cheapest estimate that we could come up with, fixing it permanently, both structure-wise and aesthetically. $14,000 was estimated for construction costs, some of the delamination of the cooler panels, the office, the storeroom. $9,300 was for ADA compliance items recommended by League of Minnesota Cities. You might remember it was shortly after the flood that we had a League of Minnesota Cities audit where we did not meet the criteria for that location. We'd have to put a ramp in, relocate the door, put designated parking stalls in, and there's a couple other things to do with the bathroom and some doorways and stuff like that just to meet the ADA compliance. 8,500 HVAC update. That is admittedly on the high side because of the fact that I'm not really sure what's wrong with the system. The heat is too hot in the winter and it's too cold in the summer, and it needs some major repairs, potentially replacement, I've been told. 5,700 would be for flooring, shelving, lighting, and painting. This would be to take that location and make it, in my opinion, more aesthetically pleasing, but not, this wouldn't be our final numbers that we would stick into this building over the next years to come. Other reasons to move the location: increased revenue. Highway 14 has 3.75 times more higher traffic count than South Street. 8th grade economics would tell us that a higher traffic count will help a business, so I don't think I need to explain that. Some examples are the Holly Liquor Store, similar move, similar in size. They increased from $725,000 to over $1.3 million with their move to the highway. Now, you can't base everything on just one, because I'm sure you could find a story where somebody didn't do well as well, but we also have to base it on something. Could we get it up to that? It's definitely a possibility, but I was a little more conservative in my numbers further on. Maple Lake built a new store along the highway in 2010. They had a significant increase in sales, but one of the things that they noted more so than just the sales was a higher customer count. And when you talk about in a sales mentality, customer count is extremely important, because once you get customers in the door, you can attempt to upsell the customers by either more products that you have, more diverse products, or even a new line of some sort. So, other reasons, a fast return on our investment. So this was, thanks to Councilmember Peterson, I spent the afternoon researching all of this. So, and to answer your question, you wanted to know how our return on investment, how are we going to pay for this? So historic examples of moving a location to a highway and gaining more exposure, so to speak, getting more in that limelight, shows a 20 to 30% increase in sales by moving locations. I went on the lower side and I went with the 20%. I'm very confident that we can increase our sales overall by 30% or more, but I wanted to err to the side of caution for you. In 2019, we estimate our net profit to be $29,636. This is based on the numbers we got last year without high employee payouts, and this again is on the conservative side. This is at our current rate in the location that we're in. That is an estimate, and estimates are like anything. It can just be a guess in the dark too. But I used hard numbers to come up with this, and I feel very confident in this.
What was that number again?
$29,636. If you recall from the last meeting, I showed you that on paper, in the last 4 months of this year, we made $14,988. If you look, and again, staying in that current location, we still have budgeted for repairs in that building, the $65,635. And the reason why I pointed that out, and that is for fairness in the 2019, it has to be noted that we would be spending that money as well. In 2019, if we move to a new location with a 20% anticipated growth in gross revenue, or gross sales, I'm sorry, we'd have $115,900. That is the total cost for moving to the food and fuel location. That'd be with purchase of the building, the expenses, moving expenses and everything. It'd take off the $65,000 as a budgeted expense because we're spending it in the 2019 column at the current location, and so we'd be spending it in that one as well. That leaves a $50,265 balance. Divide that out by the $29,636 that we would make per year in the 19 estimated. That would give us a 1.7 year payoff at that rate. Well, what does that mean? That doesn't mean a lot, but I had to use that number to calculate our 10-year total. A 10-year total at the rate where we're currently at, estimated, would be $296,360, which that would be the revenue that we would anticipate taking in the next 10 years.
At the current location.
At the current location. And then that matches for the 10-year total is $298,000, so it's $2,000 more. So what does that mean? That means that to move to the food and fuel location, it would take us 10 years to pay it off. We would make the same amount that we would be making at our current location, but in 10 years, it would take us 10 years to pay off the improvements and the purchase of the building. And I think that, in the interest of fairness, is the numbers you were asking for this morning, and what I think we needed to know that moving forward. Because it is a commitment.
It doesn't take into account, though, the tallied losses over the last 11 years, because we're still sitting.
Can I continue on?
Yep.
Okay. So other factors as far as for the statistic for Tracy Municipal, statistically off-sale municipals have seen a 4.3% rise in net profit recently. Municipals in greater Minnesota's, so they take them regionally for around the Twin Cities area, and then they go greater Minnesota. They have 11.6% larger transfers when they only have off-sale. Now, I know recently, and I know it's a sensitive subject, but it is what it is, and we should talk about it, is that the on-sale was closed, and that was part of righting the ship in this in this process. So statistically throughout the state, off-sale, sticking with just off-sale. And this comes up a little bit later, I've had some people ask me if we would ever be interested in opening the on-sale. And truthfully, statistically, numbers don't lie, we just can't make money opening the on-sale. If we want to go back to losing great deals of money, we can, but we just can't. Past practices, new management, shrinkage and theft has been addressed, and in just an overall new environment. And with moving to a new location, that would create a new vibe and a new environment, and similar to what Tallgrass saw in Marshall. They had a huge increase. There's countless stories throughout the state. Financials, our net profit, we've seen some huge losses. For some reason, and I don't really know why, we reported a pretty good profit in 2015. I couldn't tell you, I wasn't here, so maybe Seth knows, I don't know. But then we took a pretty steep dive in 15, 16, 17, and 18 we started to see the rise. We went, when you asked me to first start looking into this in June, I started to look into it. We were at a loss of, if I remember correctly, around 17 to 25. 25,000 was the highest loss I saw since I've been here. And we ended the year with a positive of $3,400, which we had huge payouts, and we recouped from that drastic loss. So with that, I feel that the numbers that I presented to you are very light, but I had to take it in with, air of caution. If you look at the store financials, you can see that our gross sales has dipped. Now, part of the reason the gross sales has dipped is because of the on-sale being closed. Obviously, that was a revenue generator. It brought people in the door, and money was spent that way. What's important out of this slide to see is that our operating expenses has declined and is potentially at the point where it's going to stabilize. It may continue to decline, it may come up a little bit, but I think we're at a pretty safe, 3 years of similar operating expenses seems to tell me that that's pretty stable at this point. Our net profit, as you can see, has rose, and that's very misleading in this graph, because this is actually that same graph. I just wanted to show it in comparison. So I had a lot of resident comments, and I know some of you did as well, and I'm sure you'll want to address that after we get done with this portion. Some of them were concerns over the current building being vacated. People don't want to see downtown buildings vacated. And that is definitely a concern. That building, again, is in rough shape. It's going to take a large portion to renovate it, to get it back into what I would consider in continuing operating standards. And sticking that kind of money into it, we're talking about at $115,000 and sticking 65 into or 60,000 into repairing that versus moving to a new location. That's well over 50%. It's almost 60% of the costs to move locations and get what I would consider a better building. Concerns over the patio. A lot of people talked about their concerns over the patio. They talked about that it was expensive and that we spent a lot of money. And that was before my time, and I don't mean to seem insensitive about it, but nobody uses the patio. And it's not an on-sale location, and the concerns over the patio have nothing to do, in my opinion, with the Tracy Liquor Store. They do with the on-sale, and they do with if the public wanted us to open it up, which I think you did last year, and people didn't really show up and use it. I'd be more than happy to revisit that if that's something that the council wishes, but truth be told, there's no use for it in the liquor store application that's currently there. Concerns over construction cost overages. That was something that me and Councilmember Teagues talked about, and that's why the numbers raised on there, because we just wanted to round up. Positive feedback. I've only heard positive feedback, but maybe perhaps people didn't want to bring anything to me. I haven't had anything negative come through my office. Through third parties, I've gotten some though, and that's as I addressed above. And one person had brought up that they said this is similar to Marshall. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to bring $300,000 worth of revenue in, because Marshall obviously has a larger sales base. But Marshall took their old liquor store, they built new and put a theme together and made it into something. And because of that, they revitalized that liquor store. There's no reason that Tracy can't do that. And there's no reason that we shouldn't do that. Again, at those numbers, they estimate that they're going to put $300,000 into their transfer into their general account this year. Last year, I think they were over 400,000. So I'm not sure why the change, but that's pretty good. I'll take 10% of that and be happy. So again, the request that the public hearing is for is to approve the purchase of the former Food and Fuel location, and admittedly so, once we buy it, we are committed from the current owner for $33,000 with funds that were allocated for repairs of the other building, and then renovate the building with some of those funds and some money from the general reserve account. So I think at this time, you had asked a question before. You want to wait till after? Okay, because I do have answers directly to yours as well. At this time, I guess I hope that answers some of the questions they might have.
Does anyone from the public want to make comment?
I think
Yes, you have three minutes.
All right. One of the things that Chris said was, this is no borrowed money. I think that is really important. The committee made the recommendation to the council to purchase the old Food and Fuel building as a new site for the liquor store, and that vote was unanimous from our committee to the council, which was also a unanimous vote. My part in this recommendation was made after research and speaking to managers of municipal liquor stores and taking into consideration the issues with the present building and location. With the new management and staff and our present profit and loss, it is very evident that our liquor store can provide tax relief to our community in the very near future. Our present city administrator and our present public works teams are more than capable in to manage this project, and I believe they will complete it under budget. We as a city cannot afford to pass on this opportunity. The cost is minimal in comparison to the upkeep of an older building at the present location. And there's three things that all of the people in these different municipal liquor stores told me we have at the new site. It's location, location, location. They said if you increase your sales by just 10 cars a day, which is very likely at a minimum, think of how that will impact your sales. The added tax revenue will provide tax relief to our citizens and enable the city to have things like the swimming pool. This is an asset to our city, and will reduce the tax burden to our citizens. And I'll give to you the article in the Independent about the $300. You can pass that, $300,000. And Mayor Burns' comments about how that is impacting them. Also, from the Maple Lake store, how their change in location has impacted them. I also talked to Mike Friesen, who's the manager of the Howley Liquor Store. The Maple Lake and the Howley Liquor Store are like in kind, we're almost of the same population. So, with that, you can see how their sales have increased, and the graph is there with it. And then the Fiesta City Liquor Store, they changed that location to the highway in Montevideo, and they had quite a change with that too. So there is all the evidence-based research that I did on that. And I would encourage your yes votes on this. Thank you for your time.
I just want to say, I too have heard nothing but good comments about us moving to the highway. And I have not heard any.
For the record, your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tamara Shones.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And in talking with other, other locations, liquor locations like Rosemary did, they've had nothing but positive things to say, along with the, Paul Kanosak from the MMBA. So that's what I want to say.
Diana Campbell, Wesley, I own Simple Treasures. I have heard all the way from Canby to Sanborn Corners how people are so excited about what Tracy is going to do. I guess something got out to somebody, and I'm in a lot of places, a lot of times, think it'll be a wonderful idea. A great way to move forward, a great way to make money. I've always liked the way Walnut Grove can pay for everything that they do with their communities, all the fishing things and all those activities. It'd be nice for us to generate that into our community as well.
Thank you.
Jan Arvisu, and I'm a clerk at the Tracy Liquor Store. I've been doing somewhat of an informal survey with my customers. Many of them bring it up themselves about this proposal because it appeared in the paper. So it became kind of a point of discussion as I'm checking them out. And everybody but one was extremely excited and positive. And that gentleman was mainly concerned about how does it pencil out, the common sense types of things. And I just would like a clarification. Chris, when you say the balance was going to come out of the general reserve fund, but that should be repaid, right? Or not? How are they, I mean, that's what they're looking for, are those kinds of things.
We apply funds into the general reserve investment every year. So yes, it would be repaid, indirectly. How the council wants to transfer out the funds from any profitability of the liquor store is up to the council in budget season. So
Okay.
I wouldn't dare say
No, but
how it would be
it would
applied,
help.
but
It just
it would
helps.
exist.
Yes, but the way you're able to pencil things out look very positive for the success of the venture, the investment, right, in terms of the investment of the building and the repairs and whatever. Because that's the whole selling point. And I know I had a very extensive conversation with that gentleman, and he was, in the end, very much for it, if it's practical, if it's going to work, type thing.
I think the simple answer to your question is that we're going to make 296 or 298,000 in 10 years, whether we're in a new building or an old building.
I think if I'm putting myself in that gentleman's position, any profit from the liquor store stays in the city funds. If it goes into the reserve to help cover the loss of the swimming pool, that money is still one big pot. And so, yes, it would be getting repaid to be used wherever it was needed.
And that's, I think, what the people need to hear,
Yeah.
Jerry.
It doesn't
And that's where
disappear.
and that's where I think if I'm putting myself in his
Mm-hmm.
shoes, I'm thinking that's what they want to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Pam Corman. I just want to come and support, I think it's a great idea. It's kind of silly to stick a bunch of money into a building it's going to still be an old building when you're done, and you're just going to keep sticking money into it. So I just think it's a positive thing. I know that Kendall and I were at Casey's on New Year's, and there was somebody there just buying beer. I mean, he wasn't getting gas and buying beer at the same time, and I fully believe that if it was on Highway 14, they would have stopped at the liquor store. So, and why can't the old building downtown be sold for something and that money get put towards it too? So then you will be renovating a building downtown, somebody maybe, and you're gonna have a new building on the highway. So I just think it's a positive thing.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, I guess we will close the public hearing portion.
Money,
Is
money,
there-
money.
Yeah, discussion.
To clarify one, Sherry, we take X number of dollars out of the reserve fund to do this project. If you're going to increase it back to that reserve fund again, you will probably have to levy for it somewhere. It doesn't just automatically return. You know,
But, no, but we can move money.
Well, yeah, but once you spend it, you're going, whether it's at the liquor store or the pool or anywhere else, you're going to have to levy for it in order to return it if this doesn't pan out.
If
Even
this
if this
doesn't
does pan out, you're still going to have to levy for what you're spending today in order to return it to that same dollar amount next year. So it doesn't just automatically go from column A to column B to column C and then back and forth again.
No, I guess I understand that. I guess what I was stating is, obviously, I believe, no matter where this liquor store is located, if it's moved to the highway or if it stays downtown, I believe the liquor store is going to remain profitable.
Okay, yeah.
And so the profits will go still into the city accounts.
They will benefit
Yes.
Tracy overall in a general
Yes,
sense.
that I truly believe.
Specifically where it goes is
Yeah.
unknown at this point.
Well, realistically, that income coming in will offset levies moving forward.
If
Meaning
it's
we
transferred
won't,
back to the general fund instead of stay to the liquor store for further improvements or repair. So, yeah, it does in a fashion, but not completely. It's not a complete wash.
yeah, I don't think we would, hopefully, the idea of moving to that location would be to not have to stick money into that, after the repairs are done.
We have to plan for some, but I
You're
mean,
gonna have repairs out there, that's a flat roof and.
To stay in our
there's
normal
winter
budget.
on it, so it's. But anyway,
I think our normal budget would be fine, and you're gonna have to plan for some of it, because the repairs, nothing stays the same, so, but I think the anticipation is that with our increase in visibility and our increase in sales and foot traffic and everything, that we're gonna be able to offset the cost of moving and not, I mean, that it will, I mean, that's the plan, is for it to work out. Like Councilmember Peterson said, that, if it doesn't work out, then we're gonna be stuck with something that we're gonna have to deal with. But that's why we talk about this, so we know we're going in with our eyes open and we know what we're up against. I think personally that we have a very good chance of success with this. But it's not without risk.
I would like to point out that it will take 10 years to balance out. I mean, that is
well, that
something
brings
that
me to my
needs to be
next
known,
point.
because the next thing is somebody's gonna ask,
It's
well,
gonna take,
did you pay it back today? Or
are you
did-
gonna balance it out just on this move, or are we gonna balance out the deficit that we have over the last 11 years from the operations at the liquor store? Right now, over the last 11 years, we're $68,896 behind. And that's based off of the information from the state auditors and what we reported as profit loss and not including
Does that-
transfers out, but that includes the transfer in 2007 of $75,000 in order to prop up the liquor store fund. So we're upside down in it already. We're, in the last 11 years, we're having an average loss of $208 a month.
I guess my thinking though, Tony, is do we continue to punish for the sins of the past? Or do we look at
I'm
moving
not saying that, but
forward?
if you're gonna make a business decision,
but-
and what this is a business decision,
Let Jerry finish, please.
you have to look at all of it, the past, where you're at currently, what your options are, and what your business plan is for the future. And if you're going to address it and be profitable so you don't wind up repeating your sins of the past, because I'm big on history, you need to consider it. And that's all I'm saying, is we need to consider it. If you looked at this in a purely business model based on the past profit and loss, I don't think 1 year or 2 years of profitability would justify that capital risk. That's my opinion. If it was my money, I wouldn't spend it that way. Does that mean there is a potential to make money there? Yes, there is. But now you're getting into risk capital, venture capital, instead of other people's money.
But we're still gonna be spending at least $60,000 towards the liquor store this year anyways.
Yep. Should be half.
Into an older building.
Yep.
And I guess there's been a lot of changes made over the last, since the 11 years or whatever, you know, and like Chris had said earlier, you know, I don't want to bring up a sore subject, but closing the on sale was a sore subject and everything, but you know what, it's done. It was decided at that point in time by the council that was in place that that was the thing to do to try to improve profitability. I view this as no different. We as a council are looking at things now as to what we can do to increase profitability. And that's what we need to base this decision on, like it was made here 3 or 4 years ago. I don't remember if it was 16 that the liquor store on sale closed. I'm just,
16.
you know, that was a decision there, that they thought that was going to help profitability, or the less loss, whatever. Well,
Well, that's
I
why
look
you
at
have to
this
make
as
laws in
maybe the
2016
next step.
But, yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm against this, because I've kicked this idea around back in 2012, when we should have closed the bar, when we still had that opportunity to move to the same location you're discussing. But if you go back and look at the numbers of what's happened through there, we had one good year, and unfortunately, it was because of an increase in wages because of the death of an employee. So that part of it turned it around. Well, then you started the decline again. And you have the bad year, 2016, is the middle of the year where the bar closed and was trying to be carried by the off sale. So we wound up 35,000 in arrear. The next year, we got it down to 21,000. We're just now on the coming up side of how to manage it properly over there. So I'm not saying this is a bad idea. I'm saying I think we're kind of rushing. I don't see where we're looking at what do we lose over the next 10 years on taxes, the commercial taxes in that building. That's not put into this equation. So that's a loss before you even, once you buy that building, because you're not going to collect that revenue on that building anymore. And you're not going to collect it on the building you're leaving, so you can't balance it out that way. It's all the little numbers that add up that.
Wouldn't we sell that building and create a tax footprint by selling that building?
You could. You'd have to change an ordinance. And I think if you change the ordinance, and I mentioned this a couple years ago, changing the ordinance on bars in this town, requiring them to have a kitchen, and get rid of that portion of the ordinance and just let them open a bar. If they don't have a kitchen, they don't open on a Sunday. So, I mean, and then you could have a couple of buildings downtown that be opened up. That potential is there. But we haven't done anything to position ourselves to that point yet, to this move. And then if someone comes in 3 months or 6 months and wants to put up a $1.5 million building on Highway 14 and put a liquor store in it, then what do we do? I mean, do we roll over and let them have it, or do we stay here and hope on that? Or those are the things that all have to be considered before we decide if we want to pull the trigger on this.
I thought as a council, we had decided we were keeping the liquor store as a municipality, and we were not going to have another liquor store opened in the town. I thought we had already passed that.
I don't recall
option.
making that as a motion, or that we had the RFP and nobody took it, so he's going to continue on and see what happened. But there was no formal action on keeping it.
We just said we're gonna have one liquor store.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether that's if we're
Whether it's
gonna-
a muni or a private.
muni or private. And then just another little wrench, just to throw things in, and I mentioned this to Chris too, that there's a bill last year, a bill in the process this year for 3-2 beer in the state of Minnesota essentially to go away. Then a place like Casey's that currently has beer, 3-2 beer, would be grandfathered in, and they would be able to sell regular beer.
it's,
Well, the other thing too is, when you look back over the history and the loss, some of the things that played into that, we have already mitigated by changing staff, changing management, making changes over there. The loss we've seen that decline in theft.
where do you show, I don't see any shrinkage numbers anywhere that verifies that.
Chris just said that earlier in his presentation, that theft is down, theft and loss.
Well, I think we all saw that that existed before, and I don't think we have to beat to death what happened in that place.
And I agree, but I think that when you're talking about, we've been in the hole for so long, but it's important to point out that some of those things have been corrected.
Well, no, I'm not saying they weren't. I never have said that. And I know we've been on a roller coaster. That's why this was one of the issues I've been working on since 2007 when I got involved in this. And that's why they got a back door put in, why you got cameras put in, is we took control. But where are we at on inventory control now? Do we have a point of sale system that actually works, that when you purchase a product, your inventory is reduced by that much, and at the end of the quarter, you can walk around saying, I'm supposed to have 6, and I got 6?
Yes,
And that is all in place now,
it's corrected.
okay?
Yeah, the new management actually corrected that.
And that wasn't addressed, so that was one of my questions. Those are the things that when you're dealing with other people's money, and that's what we're doing here, those are the things that you have to take into consideration and be 100% sure of. If you're going to do it on your own, that's your money, knock yourself out. But this isn't it's our money to take care of. It's not our money to be flippant with.
I guess,
And again-
Tony, I also look at it as there's few ways for cities to bring in money without having to raise taxes and get it all from the
No,
taxpayers.
I agree.
A municipal liquor store, now I didn't come to the meeting prepared with all my facts and figures and everything in front of me, but from the little investigation I've done, liquor stores are usually profitable. And so it's one way for us to look at another way of bringing some revenue into the city that will help offset the amenities that aren't going to ever be profitable, like the swimming or the aquatic center and that. And so I'm looking at, why would we ever give that up as a revenue source for the city to a private industry out there that wants to have the liquor store?
Well,
If they want it,
Dave brought up a good point on that. The problem with government-run businesses is they do not react quickly to the market. We're doing that right now by, deciding if this was privately held, if at that location and one moved to that one, they'd make a business decision, use their money and go. They wouldn't be talking about it for 2 nights or have a committee to decide it. It'd be done. If the laws change and you're
Which they're gonna continue to.
with drive-by traffic is now stopping to get gas in the 12-pack, and then now they're not stopping at our liquor store anymore. Or a couple more years down the road, you're going to see it. You're going to see this stuff in the grocery stores. Iowa is a perfect example. They were all state-run liquor stores in Iowa. All liquor sales now are in the grocery stores in Iowa, and the state just sells them a license. Minnesota's a little bit farther behind on that. The liquor business, the number of liquor stores have declined in the last 12 months by,
A number of them.
a number of them. Well, in the last 12 months, it went down by 10. But since 2008, there was 242. Now there's
That's Muni, right?
munis. That's just munis.
Can I add to that? Roseville, Golden Valley, Sartell, New Hope, Becker, Duluth, Inver Grove Heights, and St. Cloud are all trying to put in municipal liquor stores.
I'm not saying they're not.
And the
They have a
reason that
bigger
they are-
population,
The
though.
reason they are is because they're profitable.
Yeah.
Now, so one of the reasons I was hired and brought into this place was I was well aware of the liquor store, and I came in with an absolute neutral opinion. It either makes money or get rid of it.
Right.
That was my opinion from day one, and that's I had nothing vested into it, so it did not hurt my feelings. Flood happened, obviously didn't get to address it right away. Started addressing it a couple months later. You want to talk about theft? As soon as they started addressing it, people started dropping like flies over there. They leave for a reason. And that, I won't say much more about that because I don't want to be insulting to anybody. But when you say this seems like it's a little fast, it is, and it's strategically fast for a reason. Number one, this town is historically known for kicking the can down the road, and that's not my mentality, and I don't think that's the mentality of the council that sits here today. This location, because of the conversations me and Councilmember Teagues have had, is ideal because of the cooler situation. If we take an empty building anywhere else, it will cost us
$100,000
you know,
coolers.
yeah, $200,000 to do it.
I understand all that, and like I said, I looked at this years ago.
Well, if I could finish, my point is, commit to this liquor store or get rid of it, because it's you know, it's not worth sitting here and saying, blaming it on the people in the past or dragging up numbers from, you know, before and stuff. My personal opinion from a business standpoint, I own multiple businesses, is either commit to it or be done with it. Because we stick time and energy and effort into it. We've spent multiple times talking about it. We either, you know, if you want to sell it to somebody, sell it to somebody, but commit to what we want to do and move forward. That's my opinion.
Yep.
And I believe I was brought here for my opinion.
Just need to have all sides covered, and it didn't look like those discussions were being had from what you sat there and brought it up at the last meeting, and we had nothing to look at, no numbers, no anything. I was privy to it a little bit afterwards from the handout from the liquor store meeting, but it just, that's what I mean. It looked to me, and a lot of people in town that left me information on it, that it was just.
Well, and that may have been a bad way to do it. I guess I felt that the liquor store committee was built for a reason, and that we were to use them for their expertise and willingness to investigate things. So maybe I didn't bring you forward detailed enough information. I'd like to think that this presentation today explained.
This is what we should have had last time. That's why I moved to put it off. So,
like I said, the simple numbers is here. In 10 years, we're going to make the same money one way or the other. It's how do you want to get there from there?
yep.
And I think that that's realistically on the very light side. There are some other things that I think would.
But in 10
contribute
years,
to
you're
this.
going to have a still way old building, or a building that has been renovated within the last decade. You're going to have less maintenance and upkeep.
That's the two facts that you know for sure, but you don't know what the liquor laws are gonna be 10 years down the road.
No, but
You
you
don't
know
know
what?
if Bruce is gonna be selling it or not.
But Tony, we can't base
No,
decisions
no,
on
what
unknown
we're
for
talking about,
years with.
to get right down to
Hold
the
on.
bottom line here, what we're talking about is $60,000. Do we spend 120 now and 10 years get it back, or do we spend 60 now and 10 years get it back? That's the difference.
No, not even close.
You're gonna spend 60, but you're not gonna have the same quality of a building. And
That's
the
a valid
same,
point.
and the same location of the building.
That's,
Those two things have not been taken into consideration.
Okay, and that was my question. You know, that's what I wanted to know, and that's what people have been asking me, and that's why I'm bringing this stuff
And
up.
I think this discussion is good because
Yes.
I'm hoping a lot of people are watching out there. I think, I don't know, I can speak for myself, a lot of people have talked to me about it.
Good.
And I will put it right out here in front of God and everybody. Going into the liquor store committee, I was against moving the liquor store ever to the highway. I was against ever selling it or closing it. I felt we needed to keep a municipal liquor store here because it's another part of an income base that we can bring into the city. But I was never going to move it to the, I shouldn't say I was never going to move it.
We're gonna support it.
I was not going to support moving it to the highway. But I think this building coming up for the price it's coming up for, like you said at the last council meeting, if that would have dropped down to that price and you would have had the choice to buy it at that time, you would have been for it.
Yep.
Well, I think now, okay, we've got a second chance. We don't always get second chances, but I'm one, and I know Chris has heard this before he started here, because he watched the meetings. I'm for not kicking cans down the road. There's nothing worse than coming to council meetings and talking about the same thing, meeting after meeting after meeting. We need to step forward, vote. It might not be a unanimous vote.
Doesn't have to be, no.
No, but I think we need to move forward with a decision so that we can move forward as a community, either direction.
And I'm not saying yea or nay till it's time to vote on this whole deal. I just wanted these items, and this especially, Chris, I think you did a great job on that. That's the
your fault.
information. I know whose fault it
You
is.
have to make you earn your money once in a while.
Well, and I think that Tony makes some valid points, and it's important to have that. I mean, you've got to have the positives and the negatives
Yep.
here. So because I don't want it to sound like we're all, it's, to me, it's starting to sound like it's us against Tony, and that's not what this is. There are valid points being made here that need to be considered. And that's why we vote, and we don't have to have a unanimous vote.
Oh,
One other thing, and just looking at it again, your projection on something, we're gonna probably wanna project signage probably for like 10 grand.
For, so,
A lit sign on the highway, because if you just have one sitting like on the building, you're not gonna see it.
so it's in there and it's kind of strategically,
spread out.
Well,
I don't want to
because
put the cart in front of the horse, but we have a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
And that, you get to vote on that another day if you.
That would be something that we can address.
I know
That would
we
be
talked
something
about that, I
for
just
either
didn't see any
location.
number that kind of, I see one that kind of associates with
It's in
it,
there.
but-
Well, and I think we would need to look at signage no matter which of the location is, because if that's where our liquor store is gonna be, is downtown, maybe we're not doing it justice by not having a sign out on the highway, like before they turn to go to the lake. That turn here and go to the liquor store and wait to your lake, but I think that could be something, no matter where the destination was, that we need to look at something with our signage.
Which is,
Because maybe if those
Like you
people
said-
that stopped at Casey's would have known, from a sign where the liquor store was, maybe they would have gone there.
but like Chris said, you're putting the cart before the horse here. We need to make a decision. We need to vote this before we start talking about signage. So, that being said,
You'd need a motion one way or the other and then vote on it.
yep,
Well, I'll make a motion that we purchase the old Food and Fuel building and relocate the Tracy Liquor Store to that location.
we have a second to the motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of purchasing the Food and Fuel building to relocate the current municipal liquor store, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Back to boards.
All right, moving on is Planning Commission, second council appointment.
Wait, can we go back to the boards and commissions?
Sure.
I've had a few business people approach me because they've heard the discussions about the openings on the different boards and all that, and it's, other than, I think, the airport, there's a out-of-town
Yep.
person.
Because they have
and
evidence.
Yep.
And EDA board has a couple people that do not live in town.
Business interest, EDA.
EDA.
You can be on it with a business interest.
Right.
That a couple other business people have asked if there would be an opportunity, because if you go down Main Street, a lot of the businesses do not live in town.
Right.
Now, I know we don't want to be putting a lot of out-of-town people, because it's still
Yep.
the taxpayers, but they are taxpayers. They're paying taxes on their buildings. That if there would be an opportunity for them to be on like the planning commission or anything like that, that's looking at how to improve the city. Because they said they do have an investment in this town, even though they don't live here, they have their business here. So I don't know if this is where I should bring that up, or
No,
not.
that's a valid point. The library they used to have to live in town, but now that they're getting money from the county, they can have somebody from out of town apply for it. The airport was, until the ordinance has changed, and they haven't really got it done yet, required that you be a resident to be on the airport. They made it pass, and then they made a change in their references to the ordinance that as long as you are a pilot and have an airplane out there, you can serve on the board. The hospital board, of course, is always all over. EDA is just a business interest. The planning commission,
That would be about the only other board that somebody.
That's left, yeah.
That a business owner would maybe want to be on.
that have an input
I would
for it.
think.
Yeah. I don't know what, that would be it of all the, because we've got rid of the multi-purpose center, we got rid of the
Maybe
Cemetery.
cemetery.
we got rid of the cemetery one, didn't we?
Yeah, it's, I think
I mean,
that's,
it would just be like the police commission.
I think the police commission are required to be a resident.
So it probably is just the
Just the
planning
planning
commission.
commission.
And the wheels board is just,
Yeah, but we've
That's-
already done that.
but that's just.
That's their
one-
board, yeah.
Yeah, that's just their board, so. Yeah, the planning would be probably the only one that,
Yeah,
and I don't know,
and I don't think there's a residency requirement in the ordinance on the planning commission right now, is there?
we'd have to look at that.
The-
To be honest with you, do you know if there's a residency requirement for the planning commission?
But I would think it would have to be the business owner, not like an employee.
Employee, be the owner
It would
themselves.
have to be the owner who has
That's
the vested
paying the
interest.
taxes.
The
Yeah.
taxpayer, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that would be something we'd maybe have to look up.
I don't recall seeing it in there, but, you know, if I had to make a choice, I'd say there's no residency requirement. I don't recall it in the,
and then maybe we just need to get that knowledge out there, because a lot of people think it's just,
Can I make a comment to that? Okay. I've had business owners say they would like to be on the planning commission. You know, we're business owners, but we live in the country. We can't even, you know, vote on the things that would affect us. So that should be clarified. That would be really good, because I know some business owners that would probably do that.
I have heard that as well from
Yeah.
several people.
Well, you're the council, you can make the
Yeah.
decision. If you want,
We just need to see what the wording is today, and if we need to amend it, or if it's, today it's open, but nobody has ever really.
Can we
nobody's
get
challenged it.
clarification on that? We'll address it at the next
Put in a
meeting.
memo for you then for the next meeting.
Thank you. You're good with that?
Yeah.
Jerry? All right. So, planning commission, second council appointment.
That was, you had talked about a second council member appointment, and it just got tabled before, about having a council member and yourself be on the planning commission. You know, we've got upcoming appointments. If you wanted to put a council member on there, I think it would be an appropriate time to do that. Plus, I think we're dangerously low in having a quorum.
We are.
Time, and it would have been nice to be able to count on a voting council member, so I'd
Do we have anybody on the council that's interested in?
I would do it, and then if two business owners decide to get down, I could just get off and not affect the board in any way, so I'd be willing to do it, just, I don't go anywhere, I'd be here for the meetings. I always have something to say.
we could use the historian.
That I think we can be assured of. Anybody else interested? Cool, you interested in that? No? And I'm absolutely good with that. I think you'd be an asset. So then we'll appoint Councilman Peterson to that board. To the planning and, yeah, to the planning commission.
And then you had, in your packet, we've had one application for the planning commission. If you want to wait till March till we do all the appointments, or that was the one that was open since Oh, yeah, it's been open all year long, and that person's been,
So what do we have, 3 openings on there?
yeah.
So even if we would appoint this one, there'd
You'd
still be.
have, and we don't have any others currently.
But if we can make a decision as far as
Correct.
business owners.
That might,
This is a business owner too.
but I mean, yeah, but it might, in the future, there might be some others that step forward too.
And if they get 2 applications for business owners between now and March, I'd be happy to step on.
We'll do a
put them
cartwheel?
on there. So, yeah, it's no big deal.
But yeah, maybe to help out, when's the next planning commission meeting?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
The planning commission is gonna, oh, you maybe wanted to know this before you volunteered, gonna start meeting twice a month because of how
We
much
got a lot
there
to
is
do and we're a little bit of time, so it would be, you would have a meeting every Monday, Tony.
Yeah, I've done that before. Mondays and Thursdays.
You and I would have a meeting every
I
Monday.
got a meeting Wednesday night if you want to go down to the VFW meeting, so.
I don't have nearly enough meetings in my life right now.
Do we have that anywhere in here?
It's on for the planning commission, boards and commissions,
March.
size and makeup.
It's 10D.
Attend the planning commission second. So we can make an appointment to appoint Mark that's applied. If I remember
Are you
right,
making
that's
that
who-
motion, or?
Yes, I will make the motion.
I
that
would
we-
second that also.
Okay, any discussion on that? All in favor of Mark Seeger joining the commission, the planning commission? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So do we need a motion for Tony's appointment as well?
Wouldn't hurt,
Okay,
never hurts.
can I get that motion, please?
Motion to appoint Tony to the planning commission. Tony Peterson, sorry, let's put it that way.
Okay, any discussion? First and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries as well. Maybe for clarity, I should go by Anthony and Tony can stay Tony.
Anything you say, Tony.
We just have to clarify when we speak.
Okay, so moving on, the 2019 fire department fee change.
Finding it. Pulling a Shane here.
We talked about that last
So-
meeting, yeah, or in the,
No, I made you aware of it because of the other things we talked about it, but it was not anything that was decided upon or anything.
okay,
So what it is I'm requesting that you change the 2019 City of Tracy fee schedule for 4 things in relation to the fire department. I would like to, I'm requesting fire calls to be increased from 1,000, or from 750 to 1,000. Same for natural gas hit. Also for a false alarm, that's after the 3rd call. Basically, they give people time to fix their system, and if it's the 3rd call and, you know, it is costing the city money at that point, they should have had their system fixed. You know, and that's a repetitive nature thing. And then to create a second, or I'm sorry, an additional item for fire call, service call, an administrative call. There are rare instances where the fire chief feels that the $1,000 fee may not be justifiable for what they do, but yet it might be something that's fee worthy. And so instead of, you know, get that balance just in case. I don't have a really good example for you as to what would entail on that.
So-
I think that we need to give that freedom to the fire chief to make those calls.
you want to leave it to the fire chief's discretion?
Yep.
Are we going to cap it?
As far as the number of
I'd say
them, or-
like $1,000, I mean.
No, it's a $500.
$500.
It's a
So
$500.
it's half of what
Okay.
the other calls would be. So if
Gotcha,
if,
okay.
if they would go to a call and determine that, you know, if 3 people show up and they cancel it and they decide that, you know, or it was a chief's page only, because those are very common, then the fire chief would have the ability to decide that that's a $500 call versus 1,000. I think that's in the interest of fairness to resident. Otherwise, the way it's written, everybody would get a $1,000 call for every little thing. Now, the fire trucks roll, things like that, then it's, you know, it's a $1,000 call.
Well, yeah, there's costs incurred with that.
I'd make a motion to approve those changes.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a first and second to approve as stated with the 3 items at 1,000 and an admin with fire chief discretion at 500. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so legal issues, Phase 3A easements. Chris Larson.
Yep, I'm gonna pretend I'm Chris Larson for a little bit. So he had to get on the road. This is actually just kind of a check the block type of a thing. Has to do with the easements and the description from our attorney and from the engineer stating that we are working within the right of way. And there was a map in your packet that stated as such, and it's just to talk about that so that it ensures that we're not, for lack of a better word, trespassing.
From what I've read on, there's nothing that, we're not trying to secure any easements.
No.
We just know the boundaries where we're gonna do the work.
But legally, it has to be adopted by the council.
Yep.
So,
Okay. So we need a motion for that?
a motion to,
Or do you have a resolution on that one?
no, this is,
Just,
it'd be a motion to accept the
easement map?
preliminary title opinion of the attorney and city attorney, and city engineer.
So moved.
Second that, what he said.
okay, is there any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we go to resolutions. Resolution 2019-6, approving the purchase of the old food and fuel building.
Have we done that essentially?
Yeah,
Essentially, yeah.
yeah.
I thought, yeah,
But you didn't call it as a
but we
resolution?
didn't call it as a
2019?
resolution, so,
So can we
Restate it
restate it as that, just to be
to
official?
approve Resolution 2019-6 to approve the purchase of the food and fuel.
Is also in relation.
okay,
Oh, and 2019-7, can I do both of them? That's what we're gonna buy it
Gotta
with.
pay for it, yep.
yep.
Who you,
We have first and second for both Resolution 2019-6 and 2019-7. Any discussion on those? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries for Resolution 2019-6 approving purchase of old food and fuel, and 2019-7 authorizing unbudgeted money to be spent to purchase a building. Resolution 2019-8 consenting to a transfer of control of franchise.
Essentially, this is allowing VAST to change their parent company name to Clarity Telecom Holdings, and a merger with Oak Hill Capital Partners.
Well, at least they let us know what they're gonna do.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve that. Jeez, what else are they
At least they're
gonna do?
not asking for an extension.
I'll make a
second
motion to
it.
approve Resolution 2019-8.
Do I have a
Buying them
second?
next month, too.
Do I have a second for that? Second. Okay, any discussion? All in favor of Resolution 2019-8?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2019-9, approved gambling permit, Minnesota Waterfowl Association.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-9.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of 2019-9?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, it is what Jeff was here earlier.
No.
It is, Tony.
It isn't so.
Motion carried.
So,
And it's on camera,
I
everybody got it.
know. You were right, Tony.
Resolution 2019-10, local government application.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor of 2019-10 local government application?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent calendar, municipal accounts payable.
I got it. Make a motion to approve municipal accounts payable without breakthrough beverage and the planning commission meeting minutes from 1/7/2019.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Somebody pay my
Jerry?
company.
Why we gotta mix it up a little bit. Okay, I'll make the motion to approve the municipal accounts payable with breakthrough beverage.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Jerry?
Oh, aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And the planning commission minutes, unfinished business.
None.
None. Excellent. New business.
None.
Mayor and council communications.
It's up to you guys.
Anybody got anything to say?
So moved.
I think we had a good discussion about the liquor store. That was, I thought that went well.
Well, because there's people in the community asking the very same questions. and
Absolutely.
They need to hear the give and take and everything, I mean.
Yep, and I think that was good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so we need to do that more often.
Yep.
Gotta come up with some more stuff for
Can
now.
I know before 7:45 in the morning? Can I get 2 days?
We'll see.
Okay, so do we need a motion to close the meeting?
Nope, there's no closed meeting, so I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn, okay, we closed the meeting. We did close the meeting. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned.